just wanted to start off by thanking everybody who's in the room. It's a beautiful room. It's a beautiful crowd of people. I'm glad everybody is here. I'm glad everybody is being COVID safe. And we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name, I guess My name is Mundy, and I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition of Communities of Color. And we're glad everybody's here tonight. Now I know this is a big room, it's like a shotgun, everybody's in the back, but we're going to try to get through it. We have a short program for you tonight, and I do want you to hear our speakers. That's what I'm most proud of, but I want to first thank and do an acknowledgement to our legacy sponsors. That's On Point Community Credit Union and JP Morgan Chase. Please give them a round of applause. My next acknowledgement is a land acknowledgement, and that is something that we cannot forget, whose land we're on. So I'm going to read this very quickly. Present-day Portland is located on the traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlemet, Clackamas, Bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molalla, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia and Willamette rivers. Let us also acknowledge the robust Native community made up of tribal diversity that originates from around the country and whose journeys have brought them to Portland by ways of forced displacement or seeking opportunities. Now, those aren't just words, so I hope you take a moment to reflect upon that. And I will ask, while not so much for me, but I will ask that when our speakers are speaking, and I know you want to get your drinks, and I know you're happy to see people in the room because I'm ecstatic to see people in the room. But if you could tone it down just a little bit. Just a little bit. So, I want to take a moment, a very quick moment, to acknowledge some of the hard times we're in. And even though we're here to celebrate and honor our collective struggle, I just want to acknowledge what a tall order it will be to engage in a celebratory event at a time when so many of our communities are under constant attack. 10 years ago, on his 81st birthday, the late civil rights activist, that's not the activist, the late civil rights activist and scholar, Dr. Vincent Harding, who was a close collaborator of Dr. Martin Luther King, said, "We are citizens of a country that we still have to create. A just country, a compassionate country, a forgiving country, a multiracial, multi-religious country, a joyful country that cares about its children, about its elders, that cares about itself and about the world, that cares about what the earth needs as well as what individual people need. I am, you are, a citizen of a country that does not yet exist and that badly needs to exist." He said, "I want to offer you the opportunity to celebrate my birthday with me by pledging deep in you that you are not going to give up this life without offering yourself totally to the creation of this country that does not yet exist. And so, I extend that same opportunity to all of you in the room, along with the wisdom from Mariam Kaba that hope is a discipline, and from Maya Angelou that joy is a freedom, as we celebrate the Coalition of Communities of Color's 20th birthday together here today. So now it's my honor to pass it over to the board chair of the Coalition of Communities of Color and the executive director of the Latino Network, Tony DeFalco.
Good evening, everyone. It is beautiful to see you all here. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Tony DeFalco, and I currently serve as the Executive Director of Latino Network and also as the Chair of the Board of the Coalition of Communities of Color. I'm just going to share a little bit about what we're going to do tonight. Obviously, there's plenty of food and drinks. Get your raffle tickets now. Do not wait to get your raffle tickets. Please get your raffle tickets, because guess what? Not a lot of people have bought them yet, so your chances are good right now. Second, we're going to have a great set of speakers here. So I really want you to hang out and listen to our wonderful speakers, 3 awesome mujeres. You're going to hear from them very soon. And then we're going to have a short video that gives you a little flavor of what the coalition's been up to for the last few years. It's much inspiring for our times. Okay, so when I was asked to MC, I just wanted to say one thing about the coalition. It's working. In our region, this coalition has done so much. In Multnomah County, look where we are in Multnomah County now. We have work to do, but incredible investments in our communities. In Washington County, the investment we've made out there with research and advocacy is paying off. Now, Clackamas County is next, and Clark County, we're coming for you too. So look at what this coalition has done over 20 years and what we're going to be doing going forward. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the incredible staff of this organization and all the board members, past and present. So with that, I'm going to ask Damon to cue up a video.
A group of us came together because we all had the same issues and challenges.
And in the 70s and in the 80s and even in the early 90s, you know, our unique communities can be struggled through individually. We always thought that it would be best for us to speak for ourselves, but we have learned that systematically and politically it does not work that way.
In those early days, we knew each other, but understanding that there was solidarity and power for all of us to come together to advocate for each respective community's needs.
You know, communities of color are not a monolith. We all have our own unique experiences and perspectives. However, there is a real value in collective strength when we come together to identify our shared goals and priorities and work toward creating a more just and equitable society. And that's where I see like the real value of CCC.
It's really hard to divide and conquer when you have a strong voice in coalition members.
Since our inception back about 10 years ago, CCC has been a thought partner, a supporter, and shoulders that we've been able to stand on as we've established our organization.
We need to work together to impact policy and to drive decisions to benefit our community.
Even around the country, this concept of the Racial Justice Coalition composed of culturally specific organizations is pretty unique.
Research from the CCC within our communities across the state has demonstrated the power of how information can be collected and used for good when community is in charge, when community is leading.
Through the 20-year history of this coalition, they have accomplished so much.
One of my first experiences when you're first starting out as Kairos Pediatrics was the opportunity to go for a legislative day down in Salem. and it was coordinated by CCC, and it really was empowering for me it felt like we were infiltrated collectively, to have all these other groups, people of color, coming to make sure that our voice is being heard.
A major legislative initiative for the Coalition of Communities of Color was the Student Success Act, which we worked to help pass in the 2019 legislative session. This was a historic investment for K-12 education in Oregon, but most notably was groundbreaking in the equity investments that it made, including culturally specific services.
One of the things that I think has been monumental for our community that I think came directly out of CCC over the years was the whole concept of culturally specific services. Most of the resources were going to mainstream organizations who said that they service communities of color, and in most cases did not do it very well. We know our population better than anyone else, so therefore you should provide those resources directly to us to provide those services. And we're still seeing the impact of that change today.
We were able to win the Portland Clean Energy Fund, which is a groundbreaking ballot measure initiative to fund climate justice and just transition projects that prioritize communities of color. Learning from the Portland Clean Energy Fund's experience, we took that same approach of centering frontline communities to win 3 groundbreaking environmental justice bills as part of a statewide coalition effort in my first legislative session.
People of color communities have done the least to contribute to global climate change, but unfortunately bear the brunt of the impacts. A devastating heat wave when the Pacific Northwest, got up to an unprecedented 116 degrees. Less than a year after that deadly heat wave, we worked with our members to get state and local funding for air filters and air conditioners to better prepare people for the next heat wave.
I can count on at most both hands the number of organizations nationally as well as locally that are race explicit, racial justice, and have research capacity in house that is an active strategy that works alongside advocacy, organizing, environmental justice.
Research and data are so central to help us establish the future that we all deserve. Ultimately, I believe that community data can save us.
I'm very humbled to see that, when we put our mind together and when we plead for love and for compassion, it works, right?
Given the current political climate, the coalition is more important than ever. My hope is also that the coalition will continue to just remain absolutely laser-like focused on the mission, because we need that now more than ever. It's no secret that people of color in this country are under attack.
For me as a leader in a predominantly white state, predominantly white city, it is important to have a collective group of people around you who can really depend on to be, one, a reflection, one, to process with, one, to stand in the gap. I really believe in that collectivism.
We need to be much more bold, articulate, courageous, ask for what we think feels impossible, because piecemeal solutions aren't working.
You need to be more forceful now than we ever have before to make sure that we don't go backwards, but that we continue to move forward and demand what is necessary for our respective communities.
As the challenges of the 21st century continue to emerge, the Coalition of Communities of Color will continue to organize our communities for collective action, resulting in social change to obtain self-determination, wellness, justice, and prosperity. Please join us in honoring 20 years of success. Let the celebration begin.
give another round of applause for all the folks that were interviewed in that beautiful video. It's now my unique honor and pleasure to introduce Anjeanette. Come on, start to make your way up here. Anjeanette Brown, many of you know, is an environmental justice champion who has been a participant in our leadership development programming. And I know this to be true, so many hours into the passage of the Portland Clean Energy Fund. Thank you. And is currently serving as a member of the Build Shift Collective, working with the city of Portland to strengthen the climate and health standards for rental housing. Please, warm welcome to the stage, Anjeanette Brown.
You think I'm really tall, Tony. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here this evening, especially after being in my house so long creating people. I'm so happy to be able to be before you this evening. I'm going to start out tonight to really reflect on where we've been, where we are, where we're going. And so I'll tell you a little about myself. I got into environmental justice, not an accident. And so I went through a program called PALF, the Portland Leadership Forum, because I was on a mission for leadership. Go Warriors! I see you. And so that is a program that funneled us into the CCC. Once I was able to be a part of the coalition, just for me. Once I was able to be a part of the coalition, then I really learned about all the opportunities and options for me to get involved. And so I was able to get my feet wet in all kinds of environmental runnings. And so I'm a part of the Build Shift team. I see you, Build Shift team. I get a hell yeah. Hell yeah. And so we just, we are get out into the community and we work with folks and give them opportunities to learn about the different environmental issues that we have going on. And we take the information from our community and we feed it back into our leaders and try to make a difference right there on the ground together as folks from the city, folks from the CCC, and community members. My hopes for the future with being involved with the CCC is that we won't give in, we won't give up. I know folks know that there is a lot of pushback. You would think if you're trying to save your environment, that folks would be like, yeah, we got your back. But there's pushback, there are adversaries, and we don't give up and we don't back down. And that's what I love about a lot of our CBOs, a lot of our leaders, our advocates and our justice workers. We don't back down. Even if things are against us, we really get in there. And so I want to invite everyone to take a moment and go into the breakout room of your mind. And I want you to take a second and I want you to think back. I want you to think back to a moment that was life-changing for you. If it was someone saying a phrase, if it was an action that was taken, if it was an organization, think back to that place, that time, that person, that moment, and put that in your mind and think about that. And I wanted you to go there because that's what I feel like the CCC does for me. They came? Excuse me. That's what I feel like the CCC did for me. They made a difference in my life in such a way that when I think back and think, what was impactful to me? What has changed my life? What has made a difference for me overall? And if I think about the things, if you look at a lot of the pictures that are posted around, you'll not only see myself, but you'll see photos of my daughter. And I'm able to do this type of work and involve my children. One of my children, my teenager, my 16-year-old, his teacher called me on the phone and she said, I just wanted you to know that he knows a lot about what's going on in the world. And so you're doing a really good job. And that's due to these kind of opportunities that I have to bring my children to these type of events and social hours so that they can see that when our feet hit the ground, we're not wasting our time. We're making a difference. We're showing up and we're showing out for not only ourselves, but our future, which is our children, in the ways that means climate justice, environmental justice, social justice. We are out here, we're doing that work for those reasons. So that's why for now and in the future, I will support the CCC. I'm so excited that they are able to be able to celebrate 20 years this evening. That is a great and awesome event. And so we have opportunity. Yes, that is a great and awesome event. So tonight we have opportunity to give back and support this work. We have the opportunity to say that not only do we support the work of this entity, but we want to put our hands in. We want to put our money in. And we want to make sure that these things are able to continue into the future. And so I'd like to thank everyone under the sound of my voice. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm out.
Another round of applause for Anjeanette, please. Thank you, Anjeanette, for all the work you do in community, past, present, and future. Now I have the very special honor of presenting Carmen Rubio, who many of you know already, of course. For those of you that might not know Carmen, so many things to say about her. She's currently Portland City Councilor, first Latina City Councilor in our city's history. Prior director of the Latino Network for 11 years, where she built an incredible organization to serve our Latinx populations throughout the region. And most of all, someone I deeply admire. I've had the privilege of being able to learn from every day when I do this job now, and someone that I'm very, very grateful to every day. So thank you, Carmen Rubio.
Grateful for your leadership. Wow, what a beautiful room. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. I have to tell you, being here tonight in community for the first time in a long time, it feels like coming home for me. And it feels like a big warm hug. So thank you for that gift for me today. I'm really excited to be here to celebrate the CCC with you and our collective community power and the work of CCC. And especially after watching that video, which reminds us all about the work about social justice, community self-determination, and liberation are now more important than ever. And I'm here to tell you just how true that is. Over my professional journey, I've had a unique opportunity to experience CCC from multiple roles. As a government policy staff, as the executive director of a member organization, and as a board member, and now my current role as a city commissioner. And over that time, I've seen CCC grow from an all-volunteer organization to one staff, then to 5, to what we have today. And with that, the impact grew, and the dedication of its members also has grown and had a tremendous impact in the community. And I can honestly say that there's no other organization that fulfills a unique role that CCC does as a multiracial coalition in our community to build collective voice and power of Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Latine, Asian, Pacific Islander, and other people of color in Oregon. And it's made a tremendous difference in our state, and we look to the CCC now for its strong and unapologetic commitment to centering our communities We also look to it for its dedicated success building that multiracial coalition and building community-based organizations and leadership. CCC has changed the game and the paradigm for how we talk about racism, racial justice, and how we resource culturally specific and culturally responsive efforts in our community. And they've done this through transformational research, passing policies that directly improve the outcomes in our communities. CCC also promotes the next generation of BIPOC leadership through programs and investments that have both directly and indirectly resulted in an unprecedented class of BIPOC candidates / CCC alums, like myself and many others in the room tonight, who have run for office and won. And I just have to tell you from personal experience, it's very challenging to do that. So I just want to give a shout out to all the electeds of color that are in the room tonight. Can we give them a hand for all their work, their dedication, for standing up for our community? And we've seen so many people elected and appointed to positions all around the state and locally. And CCC had a very direct impact in that work through its leadership development program, Bridges. It had a very, very clear role in this transformation. And the bottom line is that in 20 years, CCC is about walking the talk and getting stuff done. And right now, I want to get really real with you about why it matters. And I don't have to tell anyone in this room how the last few years have been some of the most consequential and important of our entire lifetimes. Our communities have continued to bear the brunt of the pandemic, the dual pandemics actually, of COVID and racism. And despite historic uprisings for justice in Portland and around the globe, we see the growing and alarming attempts to undermine our civil rights and our democracy. We also see communities targeted for racially motivated violence and death. We feel with increasing regularity the disproportionate impacts of climate change on our BIPOC communities. And our values for racial justice, education justice, housing justice, climate justice, and economic justice are more at stake than ever. So it's time like these that we need each other, and we need trusted community-centered organizations who embody our values and fight alongside us to hold on to these things. And during my time as executive director, CCC and its member organizations were essential partners in our advocacy. And I've always trusted them and all the members that we belong with to stand alongside us in advocacy for our youth and families, for our environment, and for our policies rooted in equity and justice. And now as an elected official, I look to the voices of this organization and all the members that are here tonight to ground me when it comes to these important decisions. And I'm not the only one, because for myself and other community-based electeds, CCC is where we can trust that the issues and voices coming forward are 100% grounded in community. And grounding our policymaking in community-based research and data is pivotal to ensuring that our electeds are making the right decisions on our behalf. And I gotta tell you that the stakes are really high for us right now, and the engagement of everyone in this room is so consequential, and there are so many issues before us, from shaping the future of our city through charter reform to selecting our next governor. And as we're now emerging back into these physical spaces together, we're also re-emerging in our collective power together as a CCC community for the next 20 years. And this time we're even stronger, more motivated, and fired up to move our agenda forward. And this could not happen, I'm almost done, this could not happen without strong, capable, community-centered leadership. So on behalf of our city, I want to acknowledge Marcus, Jenny, the CCC team, and Tony and the board of directors for their conviction, dedication to our communities. Thank you, all of you. And in closing, I just want to say happy anniversary, CCC. It was the honor of my life to work with all of you and on behalf of our communities. And thank you for bringing us all together and for advocating for all of us and for our vision for justice. Thank you and have fun tonight.
Thank you, Carmen. Another round of applause for Carmen Rubio. Okay, I'm putting on my glasses for this one. So now it's my unique honor and privilege to introduce Nichole June Maher, one of the original co-founders of the Coalition of Communities of Color, former executive director and leader of the Native American Youth and Family Center and Northwest Health Foundation, now CEO and president of Group Health Foundation. Nichole has served on a number of governing boards, including Grantmakers in Health, Philanthropy Northwest, National Urban Indian Family Coalition, and Northwest Indian College Foundation. She holds a Master's of Public Health from the Mark O. Hatfield School of Government at PSU. She also completed a fellowship at Harvard Medical School and the Robert Wood Johnson Minority Medical Education Program at Yale Medical School. The mother of 3 young children, Nichole is proud of her Alaskan heritage and her connection to rural communities across Washington and Oregon. Please give a very warm welcome to Nichole.
Hello, Portland. It's good to be home. It is my privilege and honor to be with all of you this evening. And I am here because I believe there are just a few fundamentals required for building power, changing systems, and realizing the dreams of our ancestors. I believe they are relationship, trust, and a vision of interdependence. And when I'm talking about relationships, I'm not talking about relationships with the folks who currently hold power and have historically held power because of outdated and flawed notions of birthright. I'm talking about relationships with each other. I'm talking about power, and I'm talking about community power. Community power is the most essential type of power for transforming society. The ability for communities to achieve collective purpose and realize a shared vision together. I have witnessed firsthand what can happen when organizations and communities begin to imagine ourselves as powerful, worthy, and necessary for a better world. I've experienced the magic when we know we have interdependent destinies. Now, Marcus asked me to come and tell some stories about the early days, and so I will. And the story begins 20 years ago, right here in Portland, Oregon. Once upon a time, when I was just 22 years old, I went to work for the Native American Youth and Family Center. It was actually called the Native American Youth Association at the time. And the irony that this girl from a small village in Alaska who grew up on a tiny reservation in Oregon was working for an urban Indian organization is still not lost on me. Now, when I began at NAIA, I began as the youth organization and education coordinator. And just 6 months later, at the young age of 23, I became the executive director. I came into the role at NAIA when our budget was less than $200,000 and 90% of our funding came from Multnomah County. 2001 was a very challenging economic year, and the county was planning on cutting about 50% of all social service budgets, which would have been our entire budget. Now, I always caution women away from telling self-depreciating stories or jokes, but I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that I was very, very green, and I didn't even know what I didn't know. But I did know one thing. I knew that we were the least powerful community. It wasn't that we didn't have political relationships. It was that our politicians didn't even know we existed. At that time, we were one of the smaller communities. We had stayed very isolated, and we were the most likely to lose everything. Now, you may not know this about me, but I am a people watcher. And while that may be creepy, sometimes it pays off. And it did at one of those horrible, horrible county budget hearings. Right about the time an older man from a historically white organization told me that maybe someday our funding could get restored when the economy improved, I noticed this group of folks in the back of the room, leaders from the African American, Asian community, and Latino community, whispering. And one awkward introduction later, and a bunch of late night meetings, the coalition was born. Now, from the beginning, my role was clear. I was the minute taker, the meeting scheduler, the snack organizer, and the person who did the research on the budget allocations. And I want to say that last one was not easy because the internet did not work so good then. And I look back, and if you look back at that time, you would probably view those first years and those first meetings and see some age and race and gender dynamics. It's true, those things were happening. And at the same time, I was the least experienced person in that room, the least politically connected, and I needed friends, I needed mentors, I needed colleagues in order to protect my community. And it turns out, so did everyone else. We needed each other to protect and grow our resources and aggregate our influence to go from being the victims of a racist budget process to a group of advocates fighting for what was fair and deserved. Now, I do not want to romanticize this story. It was long and hard and messy, but within a year, during the most drastic budget cuts in 20 years, our communities went from getting less than 5% to 33% of the budget, and I believe today it's over 70%. This same coalition, the one we are all here to celebrate tonight, the one that has lasted for over 20 years to advocate, and they have secured hundreds of millions of dollars for communities and countless political wins. They transformed how social services happen in the state of Oregon, clarifying the integrity and profound impact of culturally specific organizations. They have redefined how elections get won and lost. They decide who writes and passes the ballot measures and which consultants get hired. They pass legislation and then they write the rules once the laws are passed. They have gone beyond a seat at the table, and they choose who sits at the table, and sometimes they design the table themselves. They have a loud and powerful voice in deciding what is acceptable and unacceptable, and what we will consent to in this state. They have grown big and complicated, and like every other organization in this room, including my own, they are imperfect. Like all of us, they are growing, changing, and adapting. These are the stories that most of us know, the big wins. But there are many moments from the early years that I wish more people knew about. The less glamorous moments, or the moments that had very few witnesses. The moments that created real consequences for the coalition members, and also built an organization that is bold enough to fight for all of our dreams. I thought I might spend a few moments talking about some of those early memories and some of those points of pride. And I can tell you, some of the most proud moments of my professional career in life have been with the coalition. I am proud of the governance structure that was created, giving every community an equal vote. And I am proud about how uncomfortable that made people in power feel. All of their efforts to pit us against each other and tokenize us disrupted time and time again because of our unity. I'm proud of the fact that we began as 4 communities, and when staff members from Multnomah County tried to organize the African immigrant and Slavic community against us, we became a coalition of 6 and banded together and said, no thank you.
am proud of the many occasions that we organized over 1,000 volunteers, young people, and parents to march around the Multnomah County building because once again they were trying to cut our budgets. I remember the emails. SEI, you gotta bring 200 people. Latino Network, we need 200 people. ERCO, get the bus. And we did it time and time again. We never should have had to do it, but I don't think we'll have to do it again. I remember when the coalition decided that we cared about all the taxes we pay. I remember the coalition when they went to then City Commissioner Sam Adams and reminded him that the Regional Arts and Culture Council was giving less than 5% of their grants to people of color, and a new 30% floor was put in. And I remember how hard they fought against that policy. I remember when the coalition demanded that if the levy would be passed for the Oregon Historical Society, then they better tell everybody's history. And they fought against us hard. I remember when the coalition and Just Portland came together to create a little organization called Color Pack and Amplify to demand a different vision for how politics happen in this state, because we did not feel that the so-called progressive organizations in this community were investing and electing our people. And they fought against us hard. They told us that we were better suited to stay in the social service and advocacy arena. They didn't even know that we cared about history and art and politics. They were surprised to learn that we knew that we paid all those taxes, and they didn't realize that we wanted to not just have input, we wanted to design solutions and create a different vision for this state. We were called arrogant, we were called delusional, we were told that we were too confrontational, and we were told that we needed to be more patient. The isolation, retaliation, and sidelining was hard, lonely, and exhausting. And yet, that time and the lessons learned are some of my most precious emotional possessions. I am so grateful to have spent hundreds of hours with those leaders who founded the coalition, some who have passed on, some who continue to lead in this community and transform this state, but all folks who are dear to me, many of whom I call dear, dear friends today. I am most grateful that I learned the most simple and elegant principle, and that is that relationships are everything, and that community power is built through trust, interdependence, and deep, connected, sustained relationships. It was true 20 years ago, and it is still true today. These are the experiences that have shaped who I am as a leader and taught me my most important life and professional lessons. I never would have gone and worked in philanthropy had it not been for the coalition. It was the coalition that taught me a lot about the field of philanthropy. And that's a field that, despite good intentions, has supported institutions that have favored the privileged and failed the vulnerable. And the coalition reminded me that we can and should demand more. Most importantly, the coalition has taught me that we must always remember that beautiful community organizations and brilliant local leaders are all around us, and they have always been there. They know what equity looks like for their people, and they know exactly how to get there. James Baldwin said, "I can't believe what you say because I see what you do." I hear his words in my head every single day. And it's advice that I would remind and recommend all of us to listen to, especially these days when the words of equity, inclusion, and diversity flow so easily from our mouths. They flow so easily from our mouths without much evidence of impact for the people who need it most. for the people who needed it yesterday. And I agree, action matters, but I also think that telling the truth is important. And we have to tell the truth. I believe that when we tell the truth, we set ourselves free to be bolder, braver, and clearer. When you tell the truth, you become free to do what is right. And one great truth that I will always recognize and appreciate the coalition for teaching me, as well as the Quinault leader who gifted it to me, is this: the people are beautiful already. I want to thank the coalition and my dear friend Marcus. Thank you for bringing me into this room with all of these beautiful people and allowing me to be part of this celebration. And please give big to the coalition.
Thank you, Nichole. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, for those of you in the back, this is the time you are paying attention. Maybe if you missed all that great stuff, you missed it. That was some wonderful, wonderful sharing from our three speakers. Could everybody please give another warm round of applause for all of our speakers? So now is the time to open your hearts, minds, and most importantly, checkbooks to support this wonderful coalition that you've all heard about. There are QR codes and links that are on your program. So if you have a program on your table or you picked one up when you came in, please pick it up now. Take a look at the QR code or link, and that will link you to the donation page. If you're old school and you brought a checkbook, fabulous. Thank you for bringing your checkbook. You can make a checkout, and there's folks that are going to be circulating in the room with some remit envelopes, and there are some on the tables as well. You can make donations with cash, check, or credit card. Now, this is really important. I want to make sure you know that the coalition and its growth now has a C3 and a C4, Building Power for Communities. So we can kick butt on policies and C3 activities and electoral politics. So you have a choose your own adventure options night. You can donate to our C3, Coalition of Communities of Color, or you can donate to our C4, Building Power for Communities. What a great option you have. So please, please, please start to make those donations now. And while you're doing that, we want to make sure you all have a chance to honor all of the member organizations that make up the coalition. And because I never can remember all of them, there's 18 of them, I'm going to read them out, and feel free to give some applause if you're hearing and you want to give some love. So Africa House, Apano, Asian Pacific American, Network of Oregon, El Centro Milagro, Miracle Theater, our friends at Hacienda Community Development Corporation, I know you're in that. Imagine Black, IRCO, Immigrant Refugee Community Organization, lots of IRCO folks here. Kairos PDX, you saw Marsha speaking earlier. Latino Network, our friends from the West Side and all around, Muslim Educational Trust, the Native American Youth and Family Center, Pacific Islander and Asian Family Center, Portland Community Reinvestment Initiative, PCRI, thank you for all the housing you've built. SEI, thank you, Self-Enhancement Incorporated. Slavic and Eastern European Center, a program of IRCO. Our friends at Unite Oregon. Marcus's Old Shop, the Urban League of Portland. My Old Shop, Verde. Give some love for Verde. And last but not least, the Vos Workers' Rights Education Project. Thank you CCC member organizations. And I also want to thank all of the executive directors of those organizations, both past and present. Please give a warm round of applause for all those folks that work so hard. And I also want to give a little love for some past executive director of this organization. She's here tonight. I think I see, no, I don't see her. Give a lot of love for someone who put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this coalition, Julia Maher. Keep making those donations. I'm going to turn it over to Marcus, who's going to share our sponsors with you.
Yes. As Tony said, keep making those donations. But I do want to go through the list of our sponsors who put us in this room tonight and show appreciation for them. So bear with me one moment. Because if you look around the room, you know the list is long tonight. So even for those folks in the back and the folks up front, we appreciate everybody in this room. So I wanted to talk about our legacy sponsors again, JP Morgan Chase and On Point Community Credit Union. Our next level sponsors, Kaiser Permanente and Oregon Department of Administrative Services, Oregon DAS, and TriMet and Wells Fargo. All of those came in at $10,000. We appreciate them so, so much. That's too much. I'll miss somebody, but while you all can read, the city of Portland has supported us. Multnomah County, Latino Network, Self-Enhancement Inc., Hacienda Community Development Corp., our friends at Heritage Bank, POIC and Rosemary Anderson High School, longtime partners, Oregon Health Authority's Office of Equity and Inclusion. We love them. We just completed a report with them. The Sierra Club, PGE, a new entity, Oregon Consumer Justice, but they're about to get very busy. Oregon AFSCME, all right. The Oregon Education Association, Local 503 SEIU. And if I want everybody in the room to notice the array we have, the different kinds we have. We have business, we have unions, we have health systems, we have government, we have foundations. That is not an accident. The coalition serves all of the region.
You want me to take a shot?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you to our $2,500 gold sponsors, ACLU of Oregon, Apano, NAF Family Center, Northwest Health Foundation, Pacific Power, Cambia Health Foundation, PPS, Prosperity Now, Portland State University, BPS, thank you BPS, I saw Ben here tonight, FM3 Research, Metro, there's a little Metro group back there, my partner works for Metro, so I gotta give a little extra love, and City of Portland.
Silver sponsors. Oregon Community Foundation. C+C, all about the good. Verde, Urban League, Muslim Educational Trust, Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, Road Brewery, that's a hard word, brewery. Work Systems Inc., Planned Parenthood, our friends at Foundations for a Better Oregon, OHSU, Greater Portland Inc., Columbia Bank, AARP of Oregon.
OHSU, Foundations for Better Oregon, PCC, Portland Housing Bureau, Travel Portland, Trailhead Credit Union, Washington County, Laurel Media, and Craig Law Center. We're reading these all of you because this shows you the depth of support for this organization over these last 20 years. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. So, before I transition, I did want to say one last thing, and that was we have partners all throughout the year. I just see a couple people in the house tonight. I know Kresge Foundation is here. They're funding our environmental justice work, a 3-year climate study, climate and health study. We appreciate them. Our partners at the Hetherington Foundation, I thought I saw them in here, the Hetherington Foundation for Innovation and Education in Healthcare. They gave several $1 million to coalition members this year to support mental and behavioral health. And our partners at Libra Foundation, who have funded us the last 3 years, have just done incredible funding and support the ongoing work of the coalition. So none of this work would be possible without those funders. And before we give it back to you, I wanted to say thank you to our event planners who made this possible, EJP Events, our main caterers, Mississippi Chef. All the food you're eating came from Mississippi Chef. It came from Yahala Lebanese Cuisine. It came from Magna Cucina. And the drinks came from our partners at Rogue Ales and Spirits. And I would like to thank you, because I know that the food is good. I can't wait to get some. And I wanted to thank Lance and the Affordable Sound Company for the AV support. And basically that's it. I would just...
One more thing. Thank you, Marcus. Please give a warm round of applause for Marcus Mundy, our Executive Director. And we do have the raffle. We're ready to announce the raffle winner. It's coming up, and while we do that, go ahead and mark your calendars for next year. This was an awesome party. It's going to be an awesome party next year. Friday, June 9th, 2023 at the World Forestry Center. Why don't you pick our prize? Come on. All right, who's the lucky winner?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, come on. Come pick the winner of our raffle. All right, we're getting audience participation. Can you all give me a drum roll, please? You ready? Pick a good one. All right, good one. Thank you for that drum roll. And the winner is, there's a lot of winners. Let's go with one. All right, we've got Chris Moss. Chris Moss is in the house. Yes. Chris, give a warm welcome for Chris.
You're welcome, Chris.
Oh, there's 3 prizes. Thank you. I will pick the second winner. And does it have a name on it? Oh, the number is, sorry, you didn't put your name on it. 5144727. We've got one more. Lisbeth Marquez Delgado. Lisbeth, I hope you're here, because that's 2 round-trip tickets on Alaska Airlines. Come on, Lisbeth. Do they need to be present to win? You have to be present to win. Yeah. It's Chris Moss. You got the first one. All right, we're going for the tickets here.
727.
You got it. There you go. Yeah, Albert Lee. All right, last one. 5144655. Never mind, Elizabeth is here. Yes, Elizabeth. Thank you, Elizabeth. All right. That concludes our program, everyone. Thank you for coming out, continuing to enjoy the drinks and food, and please continue to donate to the C3 or the C4. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.